Welcome to my world.
Right, so I am here at the Rubin Report. We're in the studio. We just wrapped up a live show, and I wanted to talk quickly with you about identity politics, right? Yeah. Because what we were just talking about before I turned this on is that people keep saying that I'm getting red-pilled in real time. And I tell them, my politics...
Guys, can you get him the pill? We have the pill here somewhere.
They brought some over to you, the jar of the red pills.
Yeah. But I actually have one very big one that would just knock your whole thing out right now.
But my politics haven't changed, right? I've always considered myself slightly liberal, pretty moderate. But for some reason now, people are watching my content and they're thinking that my politics are shifting to the right.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think about all this? Because you're like a poster child for this.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, that's quite literally exactly what I've been going through for the last 2 years. My politics have pretty much stayed exactly the same. I think I've become a little more libertarian when it comes to taxes. But basically, in terms of being what a liberal is in the modern sense, liberalism, and why I talk about classical liberalism all the time, is live and let live. That's what real liberalism is. It's about the individual. It's your life. Go do with your life what you want to do. You probably know how to live your life better than I do. Really, it's as simple as that. Now, we think of that in today's sense, we think of that as libertarian. The difference between a classical liberal and a libertarian is that basically a classical liberal sees a little more utility for the state. So I'm not opposed to single-payer healthcare, for example, or I do believe in some social safety net or some of that kind of stuff. We're a libertarian, although libertarians, at the same time, it's hard to pin them all down because they believe a wide variety of things, which is as it should be, of course. But basically, my politics I am pro-gay married. I'm pro-gay married. I'm gay married.
You are gay married.
Yeah. Well, ask me again in 5 years how I feel about it. But you know what I mean? I'm for gay marriage. I'm for legalizing marijuana. I'm for reforming the prison system. I am pro-choice. I'm against the death penalty. These are all things that are very much thought of as left and liberal, and yet the only hate that I get is from the left. The right, every day. I mean, I can show you after this. First off, we talk about Sweden. I get a ton of email from Sweden because they're like, you're one of the only people even talking about this stuff. But I get emails every single day from Christian conservatives in the middle of the country saying, you're the liberal I've been looking for. Not because they're not telling me I'm so great. They're just saying, I disagree with you on this, but you're willing to have a conversation. This is not rocket science. Anything we did for the last hour and a half, which I fully enjoyed, it's not rocket science. It's called being a decent human being. So if that's what being red-pilled is, then here we are.
Right. Here's the crazy thing. I am also pro-choice. I am also pro-gay marriage. Legalization of marijuana, prison reform.
Right-wing alt-righter.
But that's why I've always used to say that I was liberal, because I'm like, yeah, very clearly these things were liberal. I stopped saying it. You know why? Because people who were being called liberal or identifying as liberal started getting really extreme.
They're not liberal. Liberal means live and let live. That's the root of liberalism. Go read, there's a zillion things you can, go read On Liberty by John Stuart Mill. That's what liberalism is, okay? Now, it's been co-opted by progressivism and leftism, which are extremely different things. I mean, I know you know all this, obviously, but this idea of collectivism, that basically you have to put all of these groups together, and you said something in our interview that really hit it on the head. When you put all of these, what you claim are oppressed minority groups together, so gays and Muslims and trans and this and that and blacks and this, first off, you automatically purge all of the free thinkers in those things. Because now if there's a black person who thinks anything against what, like I've had Larry Elder on and Tommy Sotomayor, these are black people who I view them as individuals. I only judge them as the things that are coming out of their brains, right? Well, now you have to purge them because they don't go into standard thinking of what you're allowing the black community to think. Gay people right now, you see this happening. There's a lot of gay people leaving the Democratic Party right now because they're waking up to identity politics. They canceled the gay pride parade in West Hollywood this year. They're doing a protest march instead.
When is that?
It's in the end of June. It's the last Sunday in June.
They're protesting.
It's not going to be a parade anymore. So think about that really, because it gets to the heart of this whole thing. The left can't have gays. Gays are supposed to be an oppressed minority, even though, as you just said a few minutes ago, Trump was getting the standing ovation for talking about LGBT rights. But you can't have an oppressed minority having a parade, so we have to have them have a protest march. So it's like we have to keep finding new oppression, and what you do is you find new oppression and you have to purge out all of your free thinkers. Anyone that deviates in any way. So then you take me, you take these people who deviate a little bit. No, we're not part. We're now the bad guys. We're all writers. We're white supremacists. Doesn't matter if you're a gay Jew or part Korean or whatever it is. You're evil now.
Well, so I'm gonna ask you this: as someone who you are someone who is gay married, right? You are a gay man.
Yeah, that's how much I wanted to prove a point.
Right. So
not even gay.
You just did it to.
Yes, yeah.
No, but I remember growing up in the '90s. There was a big hubbub. My family owned a cafe in Boys Town in Chicago, North Halsted, and so I always heard about the rights of the gay community and how they were fighting this, and they were criticizing and attacking the fundamentalist Christians who said the Bible says this. Now, and let me preface this. I know very rational and nice Christians and Muslims and Jews, but now you have the left actually defending fundamentalist Muslims who in many countries they do horrible things to gay people.
Yeah.
How can a group of people criticize one Abrahamic religion and then prop up another Abrahamic religion that believe very much the same things?
Right. Well, so look, they'll spend all day long, and when I say they, I'm using a collective because this is how this group of people think, right? They'll spend all day long screaming about the baker who won't bake the gay cake, right, in the name of Christianity. If a Muslim baker did that, they would never, because then they wouldn't want to be called a racist. Oh, whoa, you're saying something about Muslims? You must be racist. Of course it's bananas. If a Jewish person left their religion, nobody would care. Most Jews are totally secular and don't even care about religion. I can't say most. It's a huge percentage, though. Nobody would care. So they're doing what, ironically, it's a George W. Bush line that I used to attribute to Bill Maher all the time, but it's the soft bigotry of low expectations. That's what it is. In the reality, they are actually acting bigoted by doing this. They're not letting any of these people be freely to use their own minds, their own logic and reason to figure out their lives. They're saying if you deviate from what we accept, you're now the bad guy.
But
it's so dangerous.
A lot of people will then say, oh, but Islam is much, much worse. But I'll say, this is what I say: eliminate the statistics. I'm not saying they exist, but let's just look at the doctrine of the Abrahamic religions.
Yeah.
They condemn homosexuality.
Yeah.
How can you criticize only one of those books?
Well, look, you could walk around because liberalism is the answer. That's the truth. Look, I'm not a believer, so I don't care what's in any of those three books. I don't think any of them are more true than the others. It doesn't mean that people don't use. So, for example, there are more believers in Islam that are believing things literally than there certainly are in the Old Testament. There are very few Jews that believe in the Old Testament that are walking around chopping people's hands off or things of that nature, right? And actually, if you were to find those people, they would be mocked by most of the Jews. Christians, there's probably a little more. There's also a numbers game here. There's only about 12 million Jews. There's 1.6 million Muslims. I'm not sure how many. I think there's probably about 2 billion Christians. I'm not totally sure. But the point is, the books only matter if people are putting these ideas into action. But the doctrine of Islam is obviously anti-gay. It's anti-Jew. It's actually anti any minority because you're treated as a second-class citizen unless you pay a certain tax. But again, none of that matters unless these things are put into action, which we are seeing that they are. So what you need a reformation, the same way Christianity had a reformation. It doesn't mean Christianity is perfect. Of course it isn't. It doesn't mean any of the religions are perfect. But if every time there's a free thinker in the Muslim community, and you could take Yasmin Mohammed, who I had on last week, or just went up today, or you could take Majid Nawaz, or Faisal Saeed al-Mutar, or a gajillion other people that are trying to reform the faith or leave the faith. If you ignore them, well, then you're just going to strengthen the extremes. And that's why the hijab and the niqab have become leftist, feminist. They're putting these on women and thinking it's about freedom. And what they're taking is a fundamentalist religious artifact and putting on a woman. And it's insane. And by the way, some of the people that are doing it, like this Linda Sarsour woman, who I believe is an Islamist, is an actual Islamist, she knows what she's doing. These are not people that are pro-woman. They're just trying to intersectionality this thing to the road to hell.
So you asked me this about...
I don't even know what the question that was there, but I gave you some answer.
But basically, I'll just state kind of my thoughts on it, is that, I'm not going to play a numbers game, because people will say Christians are better because of this and that. I'm just going to say flat out, they're all Abrahamic religions that condemn homosexuality.
Yeah.
And how do you mix any of those cultures with LGBT rights? Because they start clashing.
Liberalism. You have to get them away. That's what I'm saying. The books in and of themselves, those are just pieces of paper, right? So I wouldn't care if you burned an Old Testament or you burned a Quran or any of those things. It's just a piece of paper. I'd be more annoyed if you burned my DVD of Star Wars or something. Like, I just wouldn't care. But it only matters if it's being put into action. That's why detaching people from doctrine, there are obviously millions and millions of nominal Muslim people who are perfectly good people who want to live the same life that you and I want to live. But we can't just ignore those people and just take every extremist and make that seem like it's everybody. But ironically, that's what the left is doing more, by protecting every time you say something. So a guy like Sam Harris, he lays out Pew statistics. That's all he's doing. He's laying out Pew statistics and saying what this probably you can extrapolate from this information. And who's he hated by? The left. Who hates Bill Maher now? It's not the right anymore. It's the left. So the left is just purging out all of their own free thinkers. That's basically what's happening here.
It bothers me to have to say stuff like this, but I actually just spoke with an actual racist man at the Berkeley rally. There was a group of them, and they flat out said, we believe certain races have more IQs, or have higher IQs, that they're predominantly disposed for certain behaviors. We argued about it, and at the end of it, he said, how about you come grab a drink with us, we'll keep talking. What happens with Antifa? They sent me death threats. I got two... I got one. Okay, so someone said to treat me the way that Ryder from GTA was treated by CJ. CJ murders him. Another person said, I want someone to test out his bulletproof vest. Right? So these are incitement to violence against me. They start posting lies about me. I hate having to call out only one side, but the people on the right, the fringe, the literal Nazi, like white nationalist person, never raised their hand to me, never threatened me. They told me I was stupid. That was about it. Yeah. And I'm like, you can call me whatever you want. I don't care.
And by the way, this is why what people on the left often will do is they love the Westboro Baptist Church. They need them. They need to find racists wherever they need David Duke because they need to keep exacerbating the influence that these people have. The reason I talk about the left so much is because the left has the institutional power. The left has all of academia, all of the power on college. They have basically all the media, mainstream media for sure. They have the Hollywood power of what you're seeing on television, all of these things. So when people say, well, Trump's in charge, you're not attacking the right enough, it's like, well, first off, I haven't seen that much that he's done that's been that horrific, but we could quibble over little things like that. But the right doesn't own the future right now. It's the left that's coming to own the future because they're literally taking the minds of young people and turning it into groupthink, and we have to shatter it. And that's why when I go speak at colleges, which is what I'm doing for the rest of the week starting tomorrow, it's like these kids are coming to me, and they are, in a weird way, they're like refugees. So what you said about the red pilling, they're getting it, and they're 20, and they're like, this is not good. And by the way, it's real diversity, because yeah, there's diversity of color and sexuality and all that stuff, but it's diversity of thought. And that, if you judge people as individuals, you're always going to get more diversity of thought. So you're going to accept, oh, we think something a little different on abortion, or you want to pay a little more taxes than I do. Well, okay, we still got to live in this country. But if your whole thing is about controlling everybody's minds, anybody that shifts, is not the bad guy. So let's punch the Nazis.
Yeah. I have found that for the most part, the people who come to my channel tend to be conservative, and it's not. And I don't produce. I'm not supporting a lot of this conservative narrative stuff. I just do journalism.
You don't look like a standard conservative.
Yeah.
Right, that's the point. You don't do standard conservative work. And just looking at you, if someone's walking down the street, nobody's going, that guy's a conservative.
No, they actually all assume I'm a liberal.
Right.
I'm a skateboarder. I wear clothes like a punk, kind of post-punk or whatever. But what I'm finding is that liberals aren't searching for news on YouTube. And I've talked with some big networks about this, and they flat out told me the same thing. When we do news content, liberals aren't searching for this stuff. So I want to ask you, we've got a decently large YouTube channel. Do you think that's true?
I think if you build it, they will come. And I think that's what you're doing. I think it's what I've done, and I think that it's what other people are doing. I don't think most people are far right or far left. I think most people are willing to do what we're doing. But if you feed people shit constantly, they will eat shit, and that's what they're all doing. And by the way, we're seeing this seep into every part of society right now. It's why people are defriending people that they were lifetime friends with on Facebook. It's why people won't talk to family members. I get emails about people literally getting divorced over politics because we've all siphoned ourselves into these little things, but it's not how most of us want to be. But they need to generate clicks. They need to keep us hysterical all the time. It's why I treat my channel, we don't do clickbait. But look, I was on the Young Turks, where they basically invented clickbait. I mean, we look at my old videos. I'm not very proud of them actually, but we knew how to do clickbait and get insane amount of views. We never do that. We tag our videos properly. We title them properly. We do proper thumbnails. The topics I talk about. If I wanted to make a lot more money, we could do this very differently.
Yeah, exactly.
What we just did probably will not get monetized. What I did this morning with Yasmin did not get monetized. You know what I mean? So I think if you have a basic set of principles and you build something good, people are looking. They just don't know where to look. And the other issue is that now there's such a mess. There's so much stuff, which I would always take more stuff than less stuff, but there's so much stuff that you got to find it, and it takes time. But yes, could me and you be doing a lot easier shit and really go to where the clicks are and all that stuff, which is why I think it's hilarious, because I'll see some of my critics on the left, they'll be like, see, he's going for all that alt-right money or that hard right money, and it's like, I've been made 3 offers, 2 by extremely conservative leaning outlets, 1 by something a little more moderate, that I said no to in the last 2 months for much more money than I'm making right now. So I'm not going for right money, and I'm getting no offers from left money, but you know what I mean? Like my point is that there are some people that are trying to do some good work, and just to try to find their motives evil all the time, it's exhausting and pathetic.
You're getting demonetized on YouTube, same as me.
Our hit this month, I think we're down to something like 60% from last month.
Yeah. That's what fascinates when people are saying, "Oh, it's he's trying to attract you get the money." I'm like, news is costing me money. I'm losing money.
Yeah, even I'm doing a show in 2 weeks in San Francisco. I don't want to say who it's with yet, but it's somebody big. It will not monetize most likely because of what we're going to talk about, and it's costing me to bring my team up there, rent a studio, blah blah blah. It's going to cost us about $5,000, probably a little more with hotels and everything. We know we're going to make virtually nothing off the videos, but it's what I want to do, and fortunately because of Patreon I can afford to do some things. But also at the same time, Patreon's amazing, and I know you're on there as well, but there is also a risk of being just beholden to a certain subset of people too. But the beauty of Patreon, by the way, is that I don't know what my patrons' political views are. It's all over, I interact with them on there sometimes. We post videos and they ask me questions and things, and it's a huge mix. But the idea that I have some sense of what these 4,000 people think, and if I could only cater to them, I'd be making more money, is crazy, because I genuinely don't know. I probably hear from 200 out of the 4,000, so I have no idea.
So I guess the last thing I'll say, based on what you just said, is I do have a Patreon. I do have a very similar thing. I don't have as many as you, but I am proud in each and every one of you who, liberal, conservative, whatever, for watching my content, because you know that I don't lean one way or the other. And I'd imagine, I'm going to make the assumption that you also feel the same way, that you're producing what is, you're a liberal, but you have some moderate views. And as your audience gets bigger, it's proving that people are interested in having rational conversations.
If you build it, they will come. The proof is in the pudding. How many other cliches can I think of? That really is what it is. Like, all I'm just doing what I think is right. Really, that really is the truth. And within that, am I going to make mistakes? Yes. Am I going to not ask the perfect question every time? Yes. Does that mean I'm also going to have to sit down with some shady people sometimes? Yes. All of those things. But I'm doing what I think is right. I happen to be one guy doing something that some people think, they dig what I'm doing, and the same goes for you. And within that, hopefully that's where people will get some truth. But if your only option is to get truth from the mainstream media or from these hysteric clickbait screaming morons, guess what? You're going to get a lot more from us. And you know what? If you don't have a dime to support us, we're still going to do it for as long as we can. So that really is what it's all about.
And so you're youtube.com/
Rubin Report. Our branding's pretty good. It's youtube.com/Rubin Report, RubinReport.com, Instagram.com/Rubin Report, Facebook.com/Rubin Report.
I feel like most of the people...
Give my dog a shout out. She's been licking herself this whole time. And
I feel like most of the people watching are going to know who you are. I mean, your channel's much bigger than mine, but... for posterity. Thank you. We'll wrap on that. Aw, puppy.
Puppy, she's 13. Have you ever seen a more...
They're all puppies.
There you go.
All right, man. Thanks for talking.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And awesome. So for those of you who just hung out for the 20-minute conversation we have, you can also find me on Twitter @TimCast, Instagram @TimCast, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I do videos every single day. Click the like button, it really helps. Comment below and let me know what you think, because I love the conversation. And as for the Rubin Report, there you go. Make sure to check out Rubin Report as well, which I feel like most of you already know. But I'll see you all tomorrow.
All right, right on, right.